Hello and welcome to the CRM Zen Show, where we talk about all things Zoho. This is episode 93, recorded on Friday, May 8th, 2020. From Zenatta Consulting, I'm Brett Martin.
And I'm Tyler Colt, and let's get right on into the news.
So this is an interesting one. We were talking about this a bit before the show. So we've got some increased limits in CRM for Zoho CRM Plus. So for those of you that aren't familiar, Zoho has a lot of different product bundles. They've got a finance bundle and an HR bundle, and the granddaddy of all bundles is Zoho One, which includes most of their apps. And they've had this, one of the legacy bundles is Zoho CRM Plus, which includes about 8 or 9 of their apps, and it runs $60 per user per month. And it's really around sales and marketing. It's a pretty nice bundle of applications. Anyway, they have increased these so that you now have 10 validation rules per layout has been increased to 25. 2 custom modules per user license has been increased to 5, and 20 active blueprints has been increased to 100. And we were talking before the show, and we have no idea if this lines up with what kind of standard enterprise limitations are, but I don't know.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. Sometimes it's tricky to actually find where they actually write out all these different limitations. You know, even if you look at like the pricing and functionality pages on the website, oftentimes these things are not exactly identified. So it's kind of interesting though, a blueprint limit of 100. It's hard for me to believe, a use case where you'd want 100 separate blueprints running across your CRM.
I know,
Sounds a little nightmare.
I'm trying to imagine getting to 5 here in some way, shape, or form. It's a little crazy. And also the 2 custom modules per user license is different. I've never run into custom module limitations. I didn't know there ever were any. So if that's per license and you had 10 people, I guess they're saying then you can have 20 custom modules and now you could have 50, which is, again, you've gone a little crazy there, but okay. So there must be some use cases for these things that we're not aware of, but there we go. All right, and this is really interesting. WorkDrive has added a product called TrueSync for Windows, and it's in beta. And the nifty thing about this is this is just an application that you can install on your Windows machine, and it will put a folder on your desktop and give you access to everything inside of WorkDrive without taking up any space on your local hard drive. So you've seen this for a long time with, Google's got a sync tool, and Dropbox. Almost all the major online storage companies have a tool where you can mimic a folder on your hard drive and have everything there. And so this is great. They don't have it yet for Mac that I can tell, but hopefully soon. Looks good. Actually, they are working on a similar app, and it's going to be available soon. That's a big deal. That puts WorkDrive up there, gets it closer from that maybe column into the yes column for us there, huh?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, this is a lot of people do like to be able to access all their files through the most, familiar looking interface, which for most people is going to be just directly through your different folders, on your desktop. One of the nice things about this too is just being able to see them right alongside all of your local files. So if you do have some documents that you're not storing in the cloud, right, these all show up within the similar little browser that you're used to finding them in.
Yeah, good stuff. Good stuff. All right, and then we have a whole bunch of new updates for the marketplace. So there's a whole bunch of new CRM Marketplace apps. We've got 13 of them. We talked a little bit. I don't know if we've covered. Have we talked about Mapsly yet?
I don't think we've really dived into it much on the show. We may have mentioned it, but I don't think we've done a little deep dive.
So this extension is now inside the CRM. We've been playing around with this Mapsly app, and I think you've been playing around with it extensively. You kind of like it, huh?
Yeah, I mean, one of the common challenges we run into in Zoho is territory management, right? And Zoho has a territory management tool, and it works very well as long as your territories are pretty big, right? So, if you're separating them up by state, right, or by groups of states, then you won't really have much of an issue with Zoho's territory management. But the minute that you want to start splitting up states or cities, right, and you're trying to use zip codes to map, it just kind of starts to fall apart a little bit. So we're excited with Mapsly because they've got a super easy integration with the CRM, and they're going to be rolling out territory management here within the next week or so. So once we're able to dive in and play with that, we'll definitely be following up on this. But it looks so far to be a plug and play solution to, actually draw out and map out territories and then write those values into your CRM records.
Yeah, and as this list is interesting too. We talked about Twilio SMS for Zoho CRM. That was Jeremy Nagel's application. We like that a lot. And then there's just some others in here that, I'm kind of curious here. As I look down at the end, they have Zoho WorkDrive for CRM, inventory, subscription, and books. These are just updated extensions is my best guess. And a lot of these are native anyway. The integrations really don't sit inside the marketplace. So I'm not quite sure what happened here because most of these pretty much were already there. My guess is we just must have some major updates that were done there.
Yeah, it looks like for maybe inventory, they're expanding the little web tab functionality to actually pull that just directly into the CRM. But always nice to see more improvements there because that tie-in of the finance suite to CRM is so core for a lot of our clients, at least.
Yep. And then we had some updates also over on the finance suite of apps. And we kind of talked about those as well. And they kind of go into, so you've got a whole bunch of different plugins there. And let's move on to then Zoho Desk has a whole bunch of new marketplace apps that we've got there. I think the big one, if you were to look at it, was Zoho Sign for Zoho Desk is now been launched. But again, the marketplace just keeps growing and growing, and it seems like every week we're getting more of these apps. I guess this is their new development platform has just taken off, Tyler.
Yeah, and this is an interesting set here because a lot of these are powered by Zoho Flow, right? So a lot of these ones coming out of Desk are all actually using Flow on the back end to really drive the automation. So it's kind of cool to see Zoho packaging up little products in the marketplace that are really just powered through one of their own integration tools.
Well, I guess you're installing an extension that's then it's we have to look into that.
It's just coded to drop in a pre-baked flow.
Yeah, right in your system. Adds a whole new level of power to things, doesn't it?
Yeah,
and ability to do things. So pretty good stuff there. Again, the Zoho Sign for Desk, some nice integration as well. And then, what would the beginning of a month be without a whole bunch of finance suite updates? So books, invoice, and subscriptions. My guess is Expense did. They just didn't get that out by the time we looked at this. For most of them, there's always a common thread when we have these. There's a thing called branches and multiple GSTINSs, which are in the Indian edition. That seems to be across all of these. Got some new, I don't know. I looked through this. There wasn't really anything that jumped out at me. Anything for you?
I think a couple little updates, rolling up more project revenue, reporting out of books, right? A lot of people do actually run projects kind of piecewise, invoicing through books. So it looks like that was kind of the focus here was, updating a couple of the integrations with projects for budget tracking and billing that way.
Yeah, I do think the project features are nice, and I honestly have not dived in since they've kind of integrated those and the ability to track budgets against the projects and those, and they've done it into invoice and books. Anytime you see anything in invoice, it's always going to be in books as well. And then in subscriptions, that's where we'll kind of get some different things. So, they've got more of the bulk updating of subscriptions, which has always been needed. So now, and this is kind of big, you can select a whole bunch of subscriptions at once, and you can pause them and resume them. And in the age of COVID, where we are right now, a whole lot of people are having to suspend these subscriptions. They've been kind of doing them one at a time. So that's a big update that happened over in Zoho subscriptions.
Yeah, and actually it wasn't long ago that they rolled out the ability to pause and resume in general. That was actually a missing feature for a long time. So definitely good to see them added in mass. The one thing that I'm waiting on for Zoho subscriptions is some type of inventory integration, right? For people who do physical products as a subscription. I know, and that's kind of a big ask, right? Non-trivial, right? Not just a quick little button to add. But I'm waiting for the day when we see that pop out where it'll actually create like a package or a shipment record for you, because that would just be such a powerful integration.
Yeah, and I talked to someone quite a while back. They basically had a similar type of thing. They had a subscription where they were sending out one of these loot box kind of things. And, that needed to be tracked, and currently not possible. And then Zoho Meetings got some updates, which I don't want to make fun of Zoho meetings, but basically they added in video conferencing, which I think they didn't have before. They talked about this, and now it's kind of out there, so you can have multiple video feeds inside of your video conference, and it's now official. The big thing that came out of this is when I read the kind of down at the bottom, we have increased the number of servers to support the load, and more organizations start using Zoho Meeting. Bingo. So we may need to dive in and start trying this out again, because that's always been the problem. Is there hasn't been, I never felt that there was enough server capacity to support the load before. So
yeah, and that was one of the reasons that the last time we tried it, we ended up not sticking, was we ran one of our webinars using Zoho Meeting and its webinar tool, but the audio just came so compressed and so difficult to listen to, right, that we had to go away from it, despite the fact that overall it was actually a pretty solid product for managing the webinar.
Yep.
It just, at the end of the day, if your audio is coming through super staticky and, compressed, it just isn't really usable. But that really is just a function of, how much server capacity they can allow for each of the different audio streams. So hopefully we see that improve as they build out their infrastructure a little here.
Yeah, and it looks like they added a new feature called Conserve Bandwidth that optimally manages your bandwidth if you've got a poor connection, which is kind of nice. So maybe we'll give this a try and see where we're at. I'm just loving the day this is gonna work. So good stuff. All righty, and let's take a look. What else do we have in the news, Tyler? Backstage. Backstage got some really minor updates. You can now, through your microsite, so for those of you that aren't familiar with Backstage, it allows you to run your events completely in this application, including building the website that manages your event. And they now have the ability, if people are making queries in there, you actually can respond directly in Backstage. It's not getting lost in email. This is very similar to any website where you'll have basically comments and chats and those kind of things. So basically they built in a messaging system internal into Backstage, so you can just respond to people directly in there.
Backstage is really slick. Over time it's gotten more and more improvements, and especially when you get into doing any ticketing for your events, it's definitely worth looking at Backstage. And I'll kind of double down on that if you're charging for those tickets, you will save a lot of money using Backstage over something like Eventbrite, as Eventbrite's going to take a percentage of your ticket sales, whereas Backstage will not. So if you are going to be selling any tickets to anything and you normally use Eventbrite, I would definitely give it a look, because Zoho runs so many events, they're consistently improving and working on this application. And so really you're not losing many features compared to Eventbrite nowadays, other than the fact that your attendees aren't going to have this installed already. But it really has become a sweet little tool for managing events.
Yes, it's good. And, you're right. Because they run so many of their own events out of it, it is a rock solid app. No doubt about it. Right down to, I think a few months ago, they even added the badge printing in there and badge design. I mean,
it's badge up. It was
badge up, right? Badge up, cowboy up. That's right. So good stuff. And then, hey, you can now export your notes from Notebook, and you can do that as either HTML or a Z note. And it's going to take your notes and do an export of them, which is, I guess, a good thing. I have one complaint, Tyler. I bring it up all the time. Why can't I save my note to a record in the CRM? Why?
I actually noticed another little oddity with Zoho Notebook. And I'll say this is a shame, because I actually liked Zoho Notebook when I was playing around in there. Like, the UI is really good. You can make nice looking little note sheets. It's all the keyboard commands are as they should be, right? It's a totally usable tool. But I was taking some notes down with Wayne, our director of marketing, about some reporting we wanted to do. I went to share him the note, right? So that he could see the note, he could edit the note, and he couldn't see it anywhere inside of his thing. Even though it said I had shared it to him, it just wasn't there. So either we did something wrong or something was kind of bugged out on us, but I couldn't seem to figure out a way to just share a note to someone else inside my organization.
So it's normally what I've seen with that is it's an extremely delayed synchronization. Because what I will notice is if I take a note on my iPad, it just doesn't appear anywhere else. You kind of have to refresh and refresh, and I'm not sure what's supposed to trigger the notes synchronization, but there are some issues there. But eventually they do seem to show up, but that doesn't help, right?
If they show up after the work session.
It's not the optimal thing. Hey, just wait. I know we do need more patience in this world, but
that's fair.
I think that's asking.
And I'm not the most patient of the bunch, so.
All right. Hey, and then I got a great email this week from Nick Glalvor over at Zoho, complimenting us on our newsletter and telling me that he is now one of the guys that is responsible for putting out the Zoho Buzz, which is a monthly newsletter that Zoho's putting out. And evidently they look at our newsletter for inspiration and to keep up on things, which is great. But it's a really, really nice newsletter, and they are now have enabled the ability to subscribe to it. So if you click on the link that we're going to have in the show notes, you'll see right at the very top there, and it's really easy to get to. Just go to zoho.com/newsletter. And actually, maybe you may need to add HTML in there. And then you're going to, you can subscribe at the top, and they've got 5 issues so far. And it's monthly. It's kind of nice. They just kind of cover what happened in the last month. So worth taking a look at. I'm sure that they're going to pick up on some stuff that maybe we haven't. So go ahead and subscribe to this. So they're doing a great job on this newsletter, and I'm really happy to help them promote that. All right, Tyler, let us move on to our upcoming webinars. So we have got 2 coming up here in the next few weeks. So next Tuesday, I am going to, actually, it'll be this Tuesday by the time everybody listens to this. So tomorrow, if you're listening to this on Monday, I've got a webinar that I'm going to be doing with FormStack, and really, really looking forward to doing that with Gabe Caldwell over there. And we're going to basically be talking about how FormStack and Zoho CRM are a winning combination. Going to do a real deep use case of generating kind of a complicated proposal using Zoho CRM, and just talk about how the 2 products work together and great stuff they've done. We've done some incredible things on those with FormStack. And I don't think we've ever had one client who's ever been unhappy with the FormStack implementation. It's just really rock solid. So looking forward to that.
Yeah, I mean, their software is just so slick. I mean, it's formerly WebMerge, for those who may not have seen it since it rebranded. So it's all, conditional document creation and automated delivery. And, so Zoho has those functionalities with Mail Merge and Zoho Sign, but sometimes, for the more complicated use cases, a tool like FormStack Documents just takes it up to a different level.
Yeah, they really do. And just all the delivery, everything you can do with it. Anyway, tune into the webinar. You'll hear more about it there. And then Tyler, our overview series and best practices continues with Zoho Desk. It was a tie between Zoho Desk and Zoho Social on the last one. We chose to do Desk. We'll probably do Social in June. But on May 26th at 10 a.m. Pacific time, we're going to show you how to get the most out of Zoho Desk. So please register for that, and we look forward to seeing you there. All right, Tyler, talk about our implementation of the week.
Yeah, so this was a implementation we did this week around Zoho CRM. And it's basically syncing the deal stage value to your related account and contact. Right. So though the primary place that you're going to want to find a certain deal stage is, of course, going to be inside the deal, you may want to reference or filter your accounts and contacts based on where they're currently at in the deal funnel. Right. So this is a pretty simple little automation that just runs in a workflow and uses a little bit of Deluge script to write these fields. Right. So basically each time that you move the deal stage, the workflow is going to trigger. And that then triggers the Deluge to write that deal stage into the account and contact that are linked to that deal. And so in terms of, on the spectrum of difficulty in our implementations here, this is definitely on the simpler side to set up. You do need to know just a little bit of Deluge to put it together, but, it's nothing crazy. It's, under 10 lines of script to get this done. And one of the cool things about it is that down the line is going to allow you to filter your accounts based on their transaction status. So One of the reasons you may want to do that is to be able to pull a quick report that shows all of the accounts that you've actually sold to, right? Or all of the accounts that you've lost a deal to that maybe you want to circle back around with. Or alternatively, writing it into the contacts, which can be synced into campaigns, can allow you to send out specific drip emails or, campaigns to people based on where they're at in the sales process. So, for those who have a really short sales cycle, or maybe they're, meeting someone to closing a deal within a week or two, you might not have a need to do any type of long form drips, right, out to one of those contacts. But for those with longer sales cycles, 3 or 6 months, you may want to make sure that in between your touch points, when a sales rep's actually talking to someone, you're still kind of dripping something out to keep them engaged with your brand and your content. So it's kind of a nice little automation that sets you up to do some other cool things in the CRM and in campaigns, based on that deal stage.
So what's different from this than just a standard workflow where I say when a deal gets to this stage, update these fields in the account and the contact? There's no deluge scripting behind that. Is this updating all of the contacts, whether they're associated with the record or not?
It's a good question. So yeah, you could do a similar thing just with field updates. Oftentimes you do it with the script so that if your deal stage names were to change over time, you don't have to go back and update all the field updates. Right. So if you're writing in that when the field was closed won, then write the words closed won into an account. But maybe you change that later to contract signed, right? You'd have to remember then to go into the workflows and update them all accordingly. So the script kind of lowers the ongoing maintenance. And then it also does allow you to, if you were wanting to then trigger like all of the contacts of that account, you could do that as well via the script.
Nice.
So this gives you a little bit more options, I guess would be the way to put it, doing it via a function.
Very nice. So when we will have a video for this, it usually comes out towards the end of the week and when the show is released, and we'll go ahead and put those little 10 lines of code in there as well on the website. So look for this next week. Alrighty, Tyler, this week's Reads of the Week. Man, oh man, I love this one read. I don't even know what to make of it, and I can't believe HubSpot put it out. I feel like there's some privacy issues, but I guess there's not. I'm just not sure what to make of it. Anyway, HubSpot put out a post called Deal Performance in April Yields Cautious Optimism for May. And the interesting thing about this is they went and they looked at their clients' deal stages, over 70,000 HubSpot customers globally. And they went and they looked at the metrics as to where their deal stages were and what's been going on with them. And what they saw was that if you can't see this if you're not watching the video here, but January, it looks like January, February, March, it's kind of their clients pretty much had the same amount of deals, just a slight variance. And then the wheels kind of fell off the cart in April. And in March, and they just plummeted. And then in April, they slowly started to pick back up again. But this is beyond that. I mean, the data here, the total number of emails sent and the response rates, so people gunning for, it's funny that much lower amount of emails were sent and the response rates were pretty good. And the number of emails that have been sent is off the charts, and the response rates are way down. So, as you look at this, it kind of shows you what happens when a good chunk of the economy shuts down. And so anyway, fascinating statistics. I don't know what to make of it, but they do everything. Web traffic, industries. There's a lot of data here. And I'm sure you can find something that maybe fits into, what you're looking for. And maybe you can find some optimistic trend lines here or not.
Yeah, I mean, it's just an incredible amount of data. I'd be really interested to see, what part of the user agreement allows them to just do this. I know specifically with Zoho, they're very tight about not accessing your data. And I mean, these are all in summary, right? So no one's specifically being exposed here, but definitely interesting to see just all these different trends. I mean, the one that's interesting is how many more emails are being sent. It's up 25, 50% on some of these little time periods that they're showing. So people are definitely out there churning through marketing right now, but the return on all those emails is definitely lower than ever.
Well, I think it's everybody just trying to tell you how much they care. And I think, we care, but I'm not going to send any COVID email. We do care, people, but I don't think I can take another COVID email that tells me what people are doing. And, I don't know. It's quite a bit. So that's got to be the whole lack of response thing there. But crazy. And you're right. Even though the data is an aggregate and it's hidden behind the fact that it's these sums, I don't think Zoho would ever publish anything like that. I just can't see it.
No, I can't imagine it.
No. And then in Zenatta blogs, we've got working from home, 6 ways to stay productive without a boss. So for those of you that are new for the work from home phenomenon, yet another article to help you on your way. So you can check that out over at zenatta.com under our blogs. And then we continue to kind of push out our more of our content on YouTube this week. We have our CRM Automation 101. We did email templates. This is what was on the show last week if you listened to it. So the video is now live. It's kind of a broken out video there. And then Tyler, your implementation of the week was published, which is automated lead conversions in Zoho CRM when qualification is complete. So you can watch the video on how that gets done as well. Then on the resource guides, just one this week, but we've got a pretty cool Zobot cheat sheet. And sometimes Zoho puts out these, these are the ones I really like it when we can find them. So it's a PDF put out by Zobot or by Zoho, and it really just kind of goes bit by bit as to what they're how to actually build a Zobot, and it's got script and it's got everything you'd kind of want in here. So we're taking a look at. If you get a chance, this is a guide. If you ever want to build a Zobot, well, here's the guide for you.
Yeah, and I will say that building one of these is definitely more complicated than your average script, right? When you get into having to code in all the different layers, right, that exist to give the bot the proper context and triggers and messages. But that guide's actually really, really helpful. They gave us one of those, a paper version, a while back at their last developers conference, and we definitely have used it internally, when we've been writing Zobot. So it's really useful.
It's great. And, we kind of scour looking for these things. They're all under our resource guides. So that, of course, would fall under Sales IQ. So if you want to take a look at that, you can get the link in the show notes, or just go to zenatta.com, click on resources, and go to Sales IQ, and it'll be there as well. All right, Tyler, let's move on to our application of the week. It's an oldie but a goodie, Firefly's AI.
Yeah, so Firefly's AI is a AI-driven meeting assistant. We used it a while back, but it kind of had some issues, so we put it back in the cupboard for a little while. But basically what Firefly's.ai does is it integrates with your calendar. And then when it sees calendar events that have web conferencing like Zoom or GoToMeeting, it'll just go ahead and automatically join those conferences. And then what it does is transcribe and record the conference so that you can refer to it later. And that's kind of the simple stuff. You can go a lot deeper with it and say, make a task out of that and it'll highlight it for you, or to try to identify key parts of the conversation that may be actionable based on, the AI that's running there. But we kind of put it to bed because it was pretty expensive, about $70 or $80 a month. And at least for us, we were just running into just a few too many bugs to justify the price point. But Brett, you had kind of circled back around and started playing with this again, and you're finding that it's come leaps and bounds.
Yeah, a couple of weeks ago, I just dived in and I'm loving it. It's just been rock solid, no issues. It logs in cleanly every single time. The transcriptions are just really good. They're better than I remember them. The note taking, and as you mentioned, that price drop, I think it was $70 per user or more. Now on their high end, if you pay monthly, it's $29, but if you buy that on an annual basis, it's only $19 per month. So $240 for the year. Great application, period. Just great. I can't say anything more about it. I like the way it integrates. It writes to notes. Anyway, we've talked about it in the past, and I recommend you look at Fireflies again. We've still got a lot of clients that have used it this entire time. They haven't abandoned it. So it's worth taking a look at.
Yeah, without a doubt.
All right, and then on to our tips and tricks. So kind of Zoho CRM 101. We get asked this all the time, and really when people are doing an import, oftentimes people are trying to do mass updates of their accounts or their fields, and they want to have a unique field. And we run into a lot of companies where the account names, they've got multiple account names that are all the same, but the addresses are different. And they didn't necessarily take the time to say, it's the IHOP dash city name, right? Let's say they're in restaurants, but so you've got 75 IHOPs because they've got 75 IHOPs that are their customers. Well, one of the things you can do, and then when you go to do an import, you're really just given very limited choices. So kind of wanted to talk to you a little bit about how you can actually set up a unique field of your choosing in any of your records, so that when you do an import or you want to do a lookup or anything like that, you can actually tag off of that unique field. So if you're watching the video, you'll see this visually. If not, I'll kind of step you through it, but it's just dead simple to do this. Normally if you go and you want to do an import, you go ahead and you upload the file that you're going to import, and let's say you're just going to do an update. Well, out of the gate, you're just given a couple choices: the account ID, which is a unique Zoho field that's assigned to it, or the account name. But that's not really going to get you what you want. Maybe you want to do it off your own company ID or your own record ID or a location ID or whatever you want to call it. So you can't do that. So how do you go ahead and set that up? Real simple. Just go into your customization in the back end, click on modules and fields. In this case, I'm going to do it in accounts. Click into the module you want, and then go into that particular layout. And in this case, you can add any field, but I'm going to add a single line, and I'm going to call it the client number. And then you just want to click on the little three dots that sit there, and that's where you can kind of define the various properties associated with this. And you just want to click Do Not Allow Duplicate Values. That's it. You just really want to set it as unique. And once you create any field, once you make that field unique, well, then it's going to show up when you try to do an import. So that client number field will show up. So now that's a unique field. That's something that you can import off of, and you can update records based upon that field. It's a simple little trick, but it's definitely one that we see quite often, Tyler, and I just wanted to kind of point it out there because it's always usually maybe a big aha moment for people when we do that.
Yeah, especially if you're trying to tie two systems together, right? So if you had a lot of these accounts in some type of, other database, or maybe you're running your billing or some type of, project management out of, and you want to tie the two ends together, something like the, unique ID from that other system is a good opportunity for a unique field here. Or for a lot of people as well, they'll look at doing it with a website, right? So that wouldn't work perfectly for the IHOP with many locations, but the website can also be a nice unique identifier for accounts, right? So whether you had Apple Company or Apple, you would know that they're going to have the same website. So that can oftentimes be similar to how an email is unique to a person. That domain or that website's unique to the account. So that's a common one that will be used for doing this type of unique identifier.
Yeah, and you're right. We do see it oftentimes on the accounting side. There's an outside accounting firm, and they have their own different way of kind of referring to each account and each vendor. And, that's one way to tie it together as well. All righty, buddy. Well, another show is in the can.
Yeah, and that's a wrap for the show this week. So if you've got any questions or comments, be sure to send them over to us at info@zenatta.com, or just head over to zenatta.com and drop us a line.
And on the website is where you will find complete episodes as well as links to all the stories we discussed today. You can also follow us on your favorite social media platform and subscribe to us on your favorite podcast app. We'll see you next week.